Hi, my name's Dan Aubuchon, and welcome back to the Joy of Tennis Teaching. Today, another episode in honor of National Tennis Month here in the United States. I'm going to do my top 10 things that bring me joy, that I love about the game of tennis and the art of teaching tennis. Number one, the look. We all know this look that you get when a student achieves that aha experience, when they accomplish something that they didn't think that they could do before. Sometimes they get excited and will express it verbally. Sometimes it can be subtle, but we all know that look. I tell you, if I could get back on the court teaching full time, I would do it just for the look, without any compensation at all. Item number two, the joy of striking the ball. Just the feeling of contact, the feeling of the ball hitting the racket. The very first time I went on the court with my good friend Jeff Karsh and the two tennis rackets that his dad had given him and really crappy tennis balls, we just had so much fun hitting the ball back and forth. That feeling of the ball striking the racket, I've never gotten over it. The feeling of popping an ace on an important point, or crushing an overhead, or catching a great volley. There's so much joy in just that feeling of the ball and the racket connecting. Number three is the lessons that are learned. The idea of learning is really important. Tennis is the game for a lifetime, and the idea is we can continue learning for as long as we're physically able to play tennis. I know players in their 90s who are still improving. There's actually a 95 and over national championship and ranking. So you can keep improving in the game of tennis. This is why I don't think some of the other simpler racket sports will ever catch tennis. The subtlety and the amount of things that you can learn to do with the ball and racket and the size of the court is endless. Now it's the same thing for teaching tennis. I'm in a new phase of my career, and after 50 plus years of teaching, I am learning like crazy, trying to help my blind and visually impaired students. Every time we're on the court, I am learning new ways of communicating, new ways of helping these students with their unique abilities to hit the ball. And so learning is a really, really important part of the joy of tennis. Number four is laughter. Now, laughter should be an obvious thing, but I wanted to give homage to Doyle Field, the public park courts where I learned how to play. The game was hilariously funny at Doyle Field. We had all kinds of crazy characters, and one time in the middle 70s, I can remember we had a conehead tennis tournament where we took the racket covers from our rackets and we all wore them on our heads to imitate the popular Saturday Night Live Conehead skit. I believe I did very well in the Coneheads tournament, but I can't remember exactly. So the idea of laughter is so important to me, both in the programs that I run and in my life. My good friend Paul Newman in England, who I'm sure is watching this, said something to me once that I took as a great compliment. Paul said he could always identify a tennis program that I had directed because the fundamentals of the players would all be very good and there would be world-class trash talking going on. So I'm glad that I always have been able to invoke that idea of fun and laughter in any tennis programs that I teach. Number five is a lasting gift. The idea of giving a tennis lesson is a lasting gift that you as a teacher can give to your student, or you as a student can receive. A great lesson leaves a mark. We can all think back to great lessons that we were either students, like myself with Peter Burwash, or teachers that happened years or even decades ago. A great lesson leaves a mark. Number 6 is the human connection. Helping each other is one of the most basic things that we can do as human beings. And what is teaching other than helping? Helping somebody do something that they didn't know how to do before, or even didn't think they were able to do. My student Robert has said numerous times in our few blind tennis clinics together that he never even considered playing tennis. He never even thought it was a possibility. So that human connection is incredibly important. Number 7 is our creative muscle. I've got to tell you, I spent my entire life thinking I was not a creative person. I was the opposite of creative. I couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler in art class. I was even worse with music. I really thought the idea of creativity, I was shy. I know those of you who've seen me speak don't believe it, but I was shy and didn't communicate very well. So the idea of creativity, it just seemed like an area of my life that was never going to be developed. Until a number of years ago, I realized that my creative art was teaching tennis. That the creativity that I would come up with in the way that I would explain things to my students, and the types of gimmicks or drills that we would use, you can be incredibly creative on a tennis court. And so I no longer think of myself as not a creative person. I just realized that the art I create in is teaching tennis. Number 8 is competing. I hope. Yes, it's competing. Tennis is a sport. We keep score in sports, and the reason we keep score is to determine the winner. So if you're playing a game or a sport with winners or losers, you are competing. My family was very competitive. I'm a very competitive person. Peter Burwash was the most competitive person I've ever met in my life. And I think tennis is an ideal environment to learn how to really compete properly. And Peter used to explain that the word compete comes from a Greek or Latin word that meant to help each other, to strive with each other. The ideal of competition is that you do your best and I do my best, and we push each other to greater heights of performance. Yes, there's a winner and a loser. That's because that prize of winning is what's required to get our best effort. But so competing is one of the great parts of tennis that's a joy. And finally, we come to the last 2, which to me are extremely important. Tennis is a world filled with great people. I could go on and on and on for hours, listing some of the great people that I've met over the years. But I really want to just list a few. 2 in PBI and 2 outside of PBI. Roger Derone, who's taught me that humor is always a helpful ingredient, no matter how serious the subject. And Jim Leupold, who has a work ethic and an energy level that I hope I attain someday when I grow up. I want to be just like Jim when I grow up. Kurt Camperman, who showed me by example how you can be a great tennis pro off the court and do things to help people off the court as much as on the court. And John Embry, who is the longtime executive director of the USPTA, worked with Wilson before, who I've known for many, many years, and I will owe a debt of gratitude forever. And finally, Peter Burwash, who, with all of his unique talents, was really concerned more with helping people than anything else. So tennis, you're going to meet great people. And finally, it's the global reach of tennis. I've been lucky enough to travel to 38 countries playing and teaching tennis, and I've been to all 50 of the United States. Not a lot of American citizens can say that. They've been to every single state. This video is going to be watched in England, the Ukraine, Austria, Poland, Dubai, Indonesia, Singapore. There's, and I'm leaving out lots and lots of places. Our audience isn't gigantic, but it is completely global, stretched around the world. And in Texas and Florida and many other states throughout the country, people are going to be watching this video. So tennis is the most global of all sports. And it's not just global geographically. Economically, tennis is amazing reach. I've taught some of the most successful and wealthiest people in North America have been my students, and I've taught them, and we've had the same joy that I've had with every other economic stratus. Larry Ellison, often listed as the richest man in the world, owns the BNP Paribas Open, which is just down the street, the 5th most important tennis tournament in the world. And I've heard reports that Larry Ellison loves tennis and bought the tournament simply to be closer to tennis because he loved it so much. But with all of these wealthy people, I was teaching a clinic once in Borneo at an oil drilling camp. And one day when there were no lessons, all the workers were out in the field, one of the employees took me for a hike through the rainforest. And we stumbled upon, I was going to say village, but it really was just 3 or 4 little huts. And in the middle of these 3 or 4 little huts, they had a net for their badminton court. Badminton is a huge sport in Indonesia. And so these 4 little boys came running out, and they were just wearing these shorts. They had no shoes. And I had my tennis bag with me, and we pulled out some rackets and balls and gave a little impromptu lesson on a court with 4 kids who the guide told me would probably never own shoes or a shirt. So the economic reach of tennis is unbelievable. And we had as much joy in that lesson as any I've ever taught. So I hope you enjoyed this listing of what I find joyful in the world of tennis. I really hope you will hit the like button on this. Leave me a comment. Tell me which of the ones resonated with you the most. Was it learning? Was it laughter? Was it the look for those of you who are tennis teachers? Make the comments, hit that like button, subscribe it, and share it, and have a joyful National Tennis Month.